I'm Mark Matsumoto and welcome to my kitchen. Today I want to show you how to make a plump, juicy version of this classic Chinese steamed dumpling called shumai, so stick around. Most of the world knows shumai as a dim sum staple served at Cantonese restaurants, but it's become a popular home-cooked dish here in Japan. For my version, I use a combination of shrimp, cuttlefish, and pork belly for the filling, which gives it a marvelous balance of tastes and textures. By cutting each protein a little differently, you get a delightful variation of textures in a dumpling that would burst with juicy umami if it weren't for the slick noodly wrapper holding it all together. Sounds good, right? Let's start with a look at our ingredients. To make the filling, I've got 390 grams of peeled and deveined shrimp, 50 grams of pork fat, 100 grams of cuttlefish, and 500 grams of scallion stems. I'm going to be adding a tablespoon of egg white and 2 teaspoons of potato starch to bind everything together, and we'll season this with a tablespoon of oyster sauce, 2 teaspoons of Shaoxing wine, 2 teaspoons of ginger juice, 1 teaspoon of soy sauce, 1 teaspoon of toasted sesame oil, and a 1/4 teaspoon of freshly ground white pepper. To wrap these, I have 42 shumai wrappers, which are about 3 inches square, along with a couple of large lettuce leaves to keep the dumplings from sticking to the steamer. I'm also going to be garnishing my shumai with tobiko for a pop of texture and color. To serve these, I'm making a dipping sauce with 2 tablespoons of black vinegar, 1 teaspoon of soy sauce, and some fresh ginger. Some people also like to serve these with hot Chinese mustard. The first thing I'm going to do is mince the scallions. Just trim the roots off and split it down the center to reveal the layers. If there's a solid core, set it aside to mince separately. Then I'm going to flatten out the layers into sheets and cut them down to a manageable size. Now I'm going to slice this up into thin strips with the grain. By the way, this is a large Japanese scallion called naganegi, but if you can't find it, the stems of regular scallions will work just as well. The core of this thicker scallion is solid, so I'm going to slice it in one direction and then lay the slices flat and slice them into strips. Then I'm going to gather all the strips of scallion together and mince them up. If you still have some big pieces, just go back over them with your knife like this. Alright, let's get these into a bowl. Then I'm going to mince up our pork fat by first cutting it into thin slices. I'm using some really fatty pork belly today, but back fat will work just as well. Then I'm going to cut the slices up into strips. Make sure your pork fat is very cold or you're going to have a hard time cutting it. Finally, I'm going to turn these strips 90 degrees and mince it up. You want to get this minced up pretty small because we want the fat to fully melt as it steams. This is going to keep the shumai super moist and juicy. Alright, let's get these into our bowl with our scallions. And then I'm going to move on to the cuttlefish. For this, I'm going to cut it into strips first. And then chop those strips into small pieces. Then I'm going to go over it repeatedly with a knife like this until I have a rough paste. Don't chop it up too finely though, because you want to preserve some of that texture of the cuttlefish. This looks good, so let's get it into our bowl, and then I'm going to divide out 1/3 of our shrimp. Chop these into chunks that are about the size of a big peanut. These springy chunks of shrimp are going to provide another textural contrast to our filling. Get these into the bowl as well, and then I'm going to mince up the rest of the shrimp into a rough paste. In case you're wondering, the dark lines here are nerves and not the shrimp's digestive tract, which I've already removed using my toothpick method. I'll include a link in the video description to my shrimp and grits video where I show you how to clean and devein shrimp. Once the shrimp is looking like this, get it into the bowl with the other ingredients. And then I'm going to add about a tablespoon of egg white. Now you want to add the potato starch, the oyster sauce, ginger juice, the Shaoxing wine, the soy sauce, and the toasted sesame oil. Then I'm gonna grind about a quarter teaspoon of white pepper onto the mixture. Now I'm gonna beat the mixture together with my hand until it starts to firm up and get fluffy. This not only ensures the filling is evenly seasoned, it also helps to bind everything together into one cohesive mass. Okay, this is looking good, so I'm gonna cover it up and pop it into the fridge for at least an hour, but I usually let it rest overnight. While we wait for that, let's go ahead and line our steamer with some lettuce leaves. You want the lettuce to lie as flat as possible, so tear it into pieces, avoiding the stem, and arrange them to cover the entire bottom of the steamer. The lettuce works like natural parchment paper, and aside from adding a splash of color, it's also delicious soaked in the juices from the shumai. Okay, the filling should be ready, so I'm gonna set it next to the steamer, along with the shumai wrappers. Be sure to keep the wrappers covered with a damp towel to keep them from drying out. Now I'm gonna grab a wrapper and place it on my cupped fist. Then I'm gonna scoop up some of the filling with a small spoon and press it down into the center of the wrapper. The idea here is to press it into the cup in your hand while turning the dumpling to give it a nice round shape. There's no such thing as an ugly dumpling, so have fun with it and don't worry too much if your shumai aren't all exactly the same shape. Then you can set it on your steamer to flatten off the bottom. Let's see that from a different angle. I'm gonna set a wrapper on my hand like this. Then you just need to scoop up some filling and press it into the wrapper like this. This'll push the dumpling into the hole you've made with your hand, and it's gonna pleat the wrapper around the filling. Then I'm just gonna turn it a few times to set the pleats and flatten off the bottom, and we're ready to move on to our next one. The shumai are gonna expand a bit as they steam, so leave a little space between each one so they don't stick together. Now I'm gonna cover this up and get this over to my steamer. I'm just using a saute pan with a lip that's the perfect size for my bamboo steamer, but any setup you have will work. Adjust the heat to ensure there's a slow and steady stream of steam coming up from the steamer, and let the shumai cook for about 7 to 8 minutes. Before we see how our shumai turned out, I want to take a moment to thank all of you for supporting my videos. Whether you've signed up for access to my secret stash of recipes, or you're just dropping kindness in the comments, there are lots of ways for you to help me out, so hit the link in the description down below to see what you can do. We still have a few minutes left, so let's prepare the dipping sauce. I've got a peeled knob of ginger here, and I'm gonna use a sharp knife to shave off paper-thin slices against the grain. Then I'm gonna stack the slices up and cut them into ultra-thin threads. For the sauce, I'm gonna add the black vinegar to a bowl, along with the soy sauce. Then you can add some ginger threads to taste. Okay, our timer's up, so let's check on our shumai. They're super plump and juicy, and they smell mind-blowingly good. To finish these off, I'm gonna add a little dollop of tobiko on each one. This not only adds a splash of color, it's also gonna add a nice contrasting texture to the tender dumpling. Beautiful, aren't they? Alright, let's give these a try. Oh, it looks so good. Alright, I'm gonna pick one with a bunch of tobiko here on top. Itadakimasu. It's super juicy, and when you bite into it, it just gushes this umami-rich juice into your mouth. But because we've hand minced everything, it's still got a nice texture, and then you've got those big chunks of springy shrimp in there. And you've got those little bits of poppy tobiko in there, giving it some texture, and that slick noodly wrapper on the outside. It's indescribably good. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and dip the next one in a little bit of our black vinegar with that ginger. Now that just takes it to a whole new level. You still get that gush of umami packed juice, but then you also have that tangy sweet vinegar and that spicy ginger, giving it a nice contrast. Oh man. I know this is shumai, but they're so juicy and flavorful, they're almost like soup dumplings. Well, I'm gonna go scarf down some more of these, but check out this playlist for more Japanese-style Chinese dishes. And I'll catch you in the next one.